Can we all agree that 2024 was a standout year for K-dramas? No matter your favorite genre, it felt like there was something for everyone. But as always, one genre reigns supreme, the one that never fails to steal our hearts. Yes, I'm talking about romance. Because let's be real, nobody does romance quite like K-dramas. Now, before the C-drama fans start sharpening their pitchforks, let's stay focused. This video is all about K-dramas. That said, let's address the elephant in the room. 2024's rom-com lineup was kind of weird. A lot of shows seemed to forget the calm in romantic comedy. Why did so many feel more like heavy melodramas? Or, even stranger, why were serial killer subplots suddenly a thing? And that's exactly why When the Phone Rings stood out. It nailed the perfect balance of suspense, thriller vibes, and those heartfelt moments that make you grin like a total fool, leaving your family wondering if you're okay. But here's the kicker. While the show delivered some unforgettable highs, its finale sparked a huge debate among fans. So, what did When the Phone Rings get absolutely right, and where did it stumble? Let's break it all down. While the ending may have lost a few points, I still stand by this. When the Phone Rings was the best romance drama of 2024. But seriously, what is it with K-dramas struggling to stick their endings? It feels like ages since a romance drama truly nailed the finale. That said, whoever cast Yoo Yeon-seok and Chae Soo-bin in a romance deserves a raise, immediately. Their pairing was pure genius, and their chemistry was off the charts. Now let's address the elephant in the room. I've seen people online claiming that most of their romantic moments were imaginary. And yes, a lot of them were fantasies, but honestly, I didn't mind at all. Those moments felt like little bursts of sweetness sprinkled amid the adrenaline-fueled thriller elements. Besides, I have a serious soft spot for contract marriage dramas, the ones where they get married first and fall in love later. Probably why I'm also a big fan of Miles Way, the king of that trope. But I digress. First, the chemistry. I don't even have the words to describe how incredible Yoo Yeon-seok and Chae Soo-bin's chemistry was. It was electric. Every time they shared the screen, they didn't just light it up, they burned it down. And if you care about this kind of thing, they had the best kisses of 2024. That's right, their kisses were an event. But what really made this drama special was how it explored their relationship. If you're here for a quick plot refresher, here's the gist. Hee-joo and Sayeon are in a marriage of convenience, or so it seems. One stormy night, Hee-joo narrowly avoids being kidnapped while sitting in her car. Furious at her seemingly indifferent husband, she crashes the car, steals the kidnapper's phone, and calls Sayeon demanding a divorce. Oh, and her anger somehow gets her talking again after years of silence, proving that sometimes rage does get you what you want. Now, let's talk about the calls, arguably the best part of the drama, aside from every moment Yoo Yeon-seok and Chae Soo-bin shared the screen. The calls brought communication front and center. Through them, we saw Hee-joo and Sayeon peel back the layers of their seemingly distant relationship. And yes, I have to mention that scene, Hee-joo threatening Sayeon with a photo of her thigh. It's not just the humor of her trying to find the perfect angle, or teasing him about never seeing his wife naked. It's how those calls gave their relationship depth, allowing them to confront their issues and reveal that Sayeon wasn't the walking red flag we thought he was. The relationship starts off rocky, well, at least when we meet them. By this point, they've already been in a contract marriage for 3 years. On the surface, they seem like your typical couple in this trope, keeping up appearances, avoiding genuine intimacy, and pretending everything is fine. But everything changes when Hee-joo, fed up with Sayeon's apparent indifference, starts calling and threatening him as the kidnapper. What follows is a masterclass in storytelling. Those high-stakes, late-night calls became the foundation of their relationship, turning small, raw conversations into transformative moments. One of the most striking moments comes when Hee-joo, in a desperate attempt to confirm that Sayeon doesn't love her, insults herself. She expects indifference from him, but instead, she's met with a surprise. Sayeon not only loves her, but he's loved her for years. This revelation hits hard, not just for Hee-joo, but for the audience too. The dynamic flips, and suddenly the stoic, seemingly detached Sayeon becomes a man deeply in love, burdened by his own inability to express it. Oh, and speaking of tropes, can we take a moment to address this one? Why is it always that the leads have known each other since childhood and have harbored unspoken feelings for years? It's oddly specific and, let's be honest, a little overdone. Add that to the leads must be pure virgins who've never even brushed past another person before falling in love trope. But I digress. What truly sets their relationship apart, aside from their intense moments of affection, is the focus on communication. In a year when so many romances were bogged down by mopey melodrama, serial killers, or overly preachy messages, When the Phone Rings dared to do something different. It made communication, not misunderstandings or miscommunication, the heart of its story. The drama didn't shy away from showing how messy conversations can be. Most of their deep discussions happened during arguments, often while Sayeon was frantically trying to figure out who was threatening his wife. These weren't perfect, polished moments, but that's what made them so authentic. One of the standout scenes is when Sayeon finally admits why he married Hee-ju. He tells her that he wanted to free her from the prison her parents built around her, a life dictated by their rigid expectations. But in his well-meaning attempt to protect her, he realizes he became her new jailer. That line alone, "I became her new warden," packs a punch. It's not just an admission of guilt but a reflection of his growth and his genuine desire for her happiness. These moments didn't just advance the plot, they deepened our understanding of their characters. They showed us that Sayeon wasn't the cold, detached man we first thought he was. He was a man trying, fumbling even, to protect the woman he loved in the only way he knew how. And Hee-ju? She wasn't just a damsel in distress. She was fiery, clever, and unafraid to challenge her husband, even if it meant putting herself in danger. And she tried to drive off the road, in a bid to kill the kidnapper. Now, let's get to the nitty-gritty part, where I'm sure some of you will be screaming at your screens about how wrong I am. To truly appreciate the greatness of When the Phone Rings, we need to compare it to the two biggest romance dramas of 2024, Queen of Tears and Lovely Runner. Love Next Door doesn't make the cut. Sorry, but that was infuriating to watch. Honestly, it should have been called Cry Next Door. After each episode, I went to Reddit, the utterly infallible and always level-headed voice of reason on the internet, said no one ever, and found a comment suggesting that name. Pure genius, obviously. For real, though, that was melodrama with just a touch of romance. Fun fact, did you notice all the male leads in Queen of Tears, Lovely Runner, Love Next Door, and When the Phone Rings contributed a song to their drama's OST? A strange little trend, but moving on. Let's start with Queen of Tears. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't love it. I know what you're thinking. Come on, random person on the internet. Queen of Tears had Kim Soo-hyun and Kim Ji-won. That's the kind of pairing drama lovers dream about. And yeah, the chemistry was there, no doubt. But ask yourself this, if the lead roles had been played by anyone else, would the drama still have been as popular? Chemistry is essential for a rom-com, no doubt about it. But it can't make up for a story that feels more like a collection of overused tropes than a compelling narrative. Queen of Tears gave us everything from impossible car crash survivals to dramatic gunshot wounds. It felt like the writers had a checklist of clichés they were determined to use. That said, I won't pretend I wasn't hooked. The drama had a certain charm that kept me coming back week after week. But let's be real, the dragged-out surgery subplot? By the end, it was as dry as powdered milk. Sayeon's story was never about marriage being a mere duty. Even though their union was part of a political arrangement, his feelings for Hee-ju were genuine, having known and quietly watched over her for years. Meanwhile, Hee-ju's selective mutism, a result of the psychological trauma of her brother's death and her mother's oppressive expectations, was a powerful representation of her inner struggles. What made When the Phone Rings stand out was the slow-burning evolution of their relationship. It wasn't rushed, it wasn't overly dramatic. Hee-ju found a place of comfort and healing in her marriage, even as it came with emotional turmoil and strife. Her gradual willingness to speak more freely mirrored her emotional growth. That kind of subtle, layered storytelling is rare in dramas. Now, onto what was my second favorite romance drama of the year, Lovely Runner. It had that nostalgic high school love story angle that always hits the sweet spot. Who doesn't love watching characters live out their high school days in a way that's more exciting, and far more resolved, than our own? By the time these characters graduated, they had already figured out who they were, and what they wanted in life. One of Lovely Runner's greatest strengths was its casting. Kim Hae-yoon and Byun Woo-seok had palpable chemistry that carried the drama. Hae-yoon's portrayal of a headstrong yet vulnerable high schooler reminded viewers of the complicated emotions of adolescence, while Woo-seok brought an understated charm and depth to his character. Their performances often elevated scenes that could have otherwise felt formulaic. That said, the plot of Lovely Runner wasn't as cohesive as its lead's chemistry. It had an ambitious premise, intertwining past and present timelines, but it occasionally stumbled in its execution. The transitions between the high school memories and their adult lives were uneven, sometimes leaving the audience unsure of the emotional stakes in the present day. And while the drama leaned heavily into themes of regret and redemption, it didn't always explore these ideas with the nuance they deserved. Let's also address the tonal inconsistencies. At its best, Lovely Runner was heartfelt and nostalgic, but at its worst, it veered into bizarre territory. The stalking subplot, for example, felt unnecessary and detracted from the otherwise light-hearted tone. Then there were the moments of toilet humor that felt jarringly out of place in a show meant to tug at your heartstrings. This tonal imbalance often made the drama feel like it was trying to be too many things at once, a coming-of-age story, a rom-com, and a melodrama, without fully succeeding at any one of them. But let's give credit where it's due. Lovely Runner had some of the most beautifully executed romantic moments of the year. The scene where the leads reconcile at the bridge, that moment, is one of the drama's highlights. It's not just about rekindling their love but also about acknowledging the years of hurt and misunderstanding between them. The emotional weight of that scene was enough to make you forget the tonal hiccups, for a while, at least. Now, how does Lovely Runner compare to When the Phone Rings? While Lovely Runner excelled at tapping into nostalgic emotions, it didn't offer the same depth of character exploration or emotional growth. The relationship between Hee-ju and Sayeon and When the Phone Rings felt more grounded and real, largely because of the drama's focus on communication and healing. In contrast, Lovely Runner relied more on grand romantic gestures and dramatic flashbacks to sell its love story. Another key difference lies in how the two dramas handled trauma. In When the Phone Rings, Hee-ju's selective mutism and the psychological impact of her childhood were central to her character arc. Her growth was slow and organic, unfolding naturally over the course of the drama. In Lovely Runner, the characters' traumas were often reduced to plot devices, resolved through a few heartfelt conversations or a conveniently timed flashback. While effective in the moment, these resolutions lacked the emotional resonance of When the Phone Rings. In the end, Lovely Runner was charming and enjoyable, but it didn't leave the same lasting impression as When the Phone Rings. So, where does that leave us? While Queen of Tears had star power and addictive drama, it faltered with its reliance on clichés and stretched-out subplots. Lovely Runner brought nostalgic charm and high school romance but struggled to maintain a consistent tone despite strong chemistry between its leads. When the Phone Rings, on the other hand, delivered something deeper, a romance built on emotional growth, layered storytelling, and characters who evolved over time. It wasn't about grand gestures or overused tropes. It was about two flawed people finding solace and understanding in each other. That's what sets it apart, and why, despite its controversial finale, it still stands out as one of the most compelling romance dramas of 2024. Whether you loved it or hated it, When the Phone Rings sparked conversations in a way few dramas manage, and in my book, that's a testament to its impact. Now, let's talk about When the Phone Rings as the unexpected star of 2024. Let's be honest, this drama wasn't exactly on anyone's radar before it premiered. I mean, did Netflix even know what they had on their hands? Because their marketing team sure didn't act like it. Unlike Queen of Tears or Lovely Runner, which practically screamed, big budget K-drama of the year, When the Phone Rings arrived quietly, like that friend who says they'll just come for one drink, and ends up being the life of the party. But then it started gaining traction, week by week, building an audience like it was on a slow burn mission to prove everyone wrong. And it worked. By the time the credits rolled on its penultimate episode, it was comfortably perched in Netflix's global top 10 for non-English shows. And let me just say, it didn't need endless cameos or over-the-top action sequences to get there. No, it relied on what really matters in a romance drama: characters that feel real, emotional stakes that hit hard, and a story that doesn't insult your intelligence. And here's the kicker: while When the Phone Rings might have leaned on familiar romance tropes, the classic push and pull dynamic, it somehow made those tropes feel fresh. How? By grounding them in actual emotional depth. Hee-ju and Sayeon didn't just bicker their way into love, they worked for it, talked through it, and dealt with their messy baggage. And those performances? Chae Soo-bin and Yoo Yeon-seok made you forget you were watching actors. Their chemistry was so good, I half expected Netflix to slap a "viewer discretion advised" warning before their scenes. But it wasn't just about the romance. The drama even gave its villains layers, with backstories that made you almost feel bad for them. Sure, the plot had its moments of contrivance, looking at you, random. We're all connected subplot, but no drama is perfect. What matters is that When the Phone Rings was greater than the sum of its parts, delivering moments that stuck with you long after the credits rolled. So yeah, 2024 gave us plenty of romance dramas to argue about, but when it comes to When the Phone Rings, the conversation isn't, "Was it good?" It's, "How did this drama sneak up on all of us and steal the year?" If you're curious about the controversy surrounding When the Phone Rings, I actually dedicated an entire video to dissecting all the drama. Check it out. Before I sign off, I want to confess, I'm actually a huge fan of Lovely Runner. In an alternate universe, I might have even made a video championing it as the best romance of 2024. But When the Phone Rings needed some love, especially after its finale sparked so much controversy. I mean, its rating on MyDramaList plummeted from 8.9 to 8, ouch. I wanted to remind everyone that this drama is more than its divisive ending. It's a beautifully crafted story with so much heart, and it deserves to be celebrated beyond the controversy.